please come talk to me after the show if you are interested in bartending or if you have any other skills at all. If you have any spare cash in your back pockets, we can always use some of that too. There are donation bins in both of our lobbies, upstairs and downstairs. We accept anything you have, 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 2s, whatever you have in your back pockets. But if you have no spare cash for us and no spare time for us, congratulations. And also, I'm so sorry, because that probably means that you yourself are an artist. In which case, you should also come talk to me after the show. I would love to tell you about all the free things we can offer our artists, including free performance space, free rehearsal space, help with promotional materials, and tons of other resources. If you're interested in being considered for any of that, I will be in the box office after the show. Come find me there, and I'll tell you more. The emergency exits are right over here and back there. Thank you all so much for being with us. Feel free to join us for a drink at the bar after the show. Otherwise, have a great time.
Thank you. Hello everybody, thanks for coming. This is our third show called That Is Not a Dirty Word. I am John Lamberton, if you don't already know me. So you might be wondering if you haven't been here before, Deaf is Not a Dirty Word, what's that about? This is a show where we talk about people's careers and work, positive and negative experiences, being deaf in the hearing world, etc., etc. It's an interview show, it's live, and we have guests here tonight, and they're going to talk about the work world and what might be interesting about their jobs, and here we go.
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me. I'm Toni Mercer, and I'm actually from Manhattan. I am a New Yorker.
What do you do for work, Toni?
I actually work at the post office. I am a post office delivery man, and I have been doing that for 23 years now, which is super exciting.
Hello, my name is Daniel, and I want to teach all of you one thing right now. Everybody do what I do. You ready? Here we go. Do this. This. Oh. Okay. I'm Daniel. I moved here from Israel 2 years ago. I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm also a performer. John says, okay, great, and we'll do more later and now.
Perfect, and thank you so much for sharing your Jewish heart. And my name is Gregor, but not with a Y, not Gregory, just Gregor. And I'm visiting right now from Florida, which is super exciting. Glad to be here. And I'll let you know some more information about that later. But the word right now is
Chameleon.
chameleon, because I change on a daily.
Okay, great. And now we want to get to know you a little bit better for people who don't know more about you, Toni.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I'm a native New Yorker. And I love to help the deaf community. For example, if someone wanted to host a Thanksgiving bash, I always do that. I always host that every year on Sunday after Thanksgiving. I also am able to rent deaf clubs for the deaf as well, like the Loft. And I mean, we'll have like 400 to 600 deaf people come out for huge bashes. And that's been a tradition for a while now. I've been doing that for 25 years.
Wow.
And more so recently, I retired because, you know, I'm not getting any younger. I mean, it seems like the crowd's getting younger. And so I have definitely passed on that responsibility. But nonetheless, I actually created something called the Deaf Expo. And where we tend to have the event is in South Seaport here in Manhattan, South Street Seaport. And every year I host different various events throughout the city. And in the fall, we are having our event again at Seaport, but it unfortunately will be our last Big Apple Festival there. And the reason why is because I'm focusing on my family and my job and other things that I'm interested in currently. And so, I mean, I think that's about it for now.
But you're still gonna have a Deaf Expo, not with you though, but there'll be another Deaf Expo.
Absolutely, and someone will take over. I just have to find the right person who I feel like has the good leadership skills, and then I'll train them, and they will continue to have that going on for the next 20 years or so until they pass it on to someone else.
Daniel, more about you. Well, as I said, I'm a mechanical engineer. My interest in that actually started in middle school when I was given two choices of a career program, cooking or culinary, or something like engineering and machining. And I thought, well, that's the way to go for me. I'm a deaf person. I'm good visually. I have great eye hand, and I have great spatial and visual memory. I mean, even as a baby, I could tell the difference between people by like who had teeth and who didn't, just to give you an example. So I had done machine engineering work for 10 years, and then I moved to New York City, where I had to really adapt to a different culture, different people, different work world. You can imagine a little bit of a culture shock moving here from Israel. So I gave some thought to who I am. I looked deep about who I am and what I want to do, and that led me to want to do more performing. So in addition to my day job, I also do ASL performing. And I've really been making strides in that, performing in different places, ASL and Deaf Festivals, and of course, and now I'm here and I'm married and VV. Oh, I didn't tell you what that is. I'm in a show called VV, Visual Vernacular. This is a show where it's not actually translated to words. Semantically, it's just visual, more gesturing. It's visual like ASL, but more specifically visual. And John's saying, wow, you can see how that really matches your engineering field of work. I imagine they're similar, but then also different. They must draw on each other, right? Well, 3D images? John says, yeah, well, that's also really very creative too, thinking in 3 dimensions. And that's right.
So one thing I'm going to tell you about myself is I actually don't eat meat. I've been a vegetarian for the past 2 years, and it was a hard choice for me to make because mentally it was really tough for me to work through that. For a month, I just tried to avoid chicken wings, and let me tell you, it was the hardest month of my life. I swear, I saw them everywhere, and all I wanted to do was eat them. But nonetheless, I made it through that. And I love animals, so that's the other reason why I decided to become a vegetarian, because I don't want to hurt animals anymore, and they're just so precious to me. Now, I am an Instagram influencer, and it's not for art or fashion, but it's actually for education. So I educate people on how to learn American Sign Language in a fun way, which the way that I do that through the Instagram medium is I actually don't need to go to, they don't need to go to school, and so what people can do is have that integrative experience that makes it in a fun way for them. For several different generations, and obviously with the current millennials, this is a time when technology is really the way that people can learn sign language, and so that's something that I have taken upon myself to teach them.
How about beer? You drink beer?
No, I'm actually vegan.
Oh, vegan, John says. Oh, and so you had to learn how to cook in a new way, right?
Well, right, a completely new diet. Like I can't eat eggs, but I love eggs. And fish is okay as well, and bread is a no. Same with sugar, so I have to be very raw-based diet, like really a mix of vegetarian and vegan. And so most of the processed food out there I can't eat because it has like tofu and it's like fake processed meat, and there's some other names and I'm not sure what that is, but I am still a real vegetarian nonetheless. And so really just knowing what ingredients are in specific foods is super important when you're on my kind of diet.
Are you just using the internet or someone showing you how to do it?
No, I just taught myself. I mean, it's like the more you learn about yourself and your body and the food, the more knowledgeable you become. And so I do have some friends who are vegetarians, and but for me, being a vegan is really tough. And so some foods, as I mentioned, I still enjoy eating, like cake.
So just let's go back and talk about work for a minute. Tony, tell us more about your job.
Sure. So I start working at 7:30 every morning. And it doesn't have to be at 7:30. If I start at 8 o'clock, it's okay. It just means that I end later in the day. But I love my job. I love my job and I show up when I need to show up, and as long as the mail's delivered by end of the day, that's what's important. So the post office, what I do is I help sorting mail and magazines, and I do that for about 2 or 3 hours, and once that's all completed, then I pull everything and put it in order in the way that I'm going to be delivering it, and then I pull up my car, I load my car up, and then I'm on my way. And then I'm on my own for the day. And so I don't have a boss or anything. It's a very independent job. And I do have to finish delivering the mail before I end my day, but I really do enjoy my job. And then also to add, so I do have a close relationship with my supervisor. We actually have become really close friends. His name's Tony as well, what a coincidence. But now my old supervisor introduced me to this new supervisor, and I was delivering the mail one day. I was introduced to him, and as I mentioned, my old supervisor said, "Hey, I want to introduce your new supervisor, Tony." And I looked at him and I thought, "Oh my goodness." And he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Now everyone's going to call me Deaf Tony." And so my new supervisor started cracking up, and that's how we became really great friends, and we've been great friends since. And so, yeah, no, it's really awesome. It is.
So let me tell you a little bit about my job as an engineer working with machines. You're talking about supervisors, and we have a list of the things that we do on the computer. And what we do is we feed information into the computer, and that sends the information to a machine called CNC, and that does the actual building, cutting, molding, the actual machine work. So, one time when work was done, and you go home like maybe 5:30. And about that machine, what happened was, you get a report from the government, and it tells you exactly, we work for the government, so we're producing things for the government. So we get our work order, and it gets sent to us, and it gets approved. And then when it gets approved, we make that work. So that's just a little bit about my work. And the CNC machine, I want to tell you about what that CNC machine is. It's really very technical. We feed information into the computer, different programs and codes. And John's saying, but can you maybe tell us what the CNC does exactly? And Daniel says, well, we can mold plastic, metal, different materials. And they are hard materials that can then be made pliable through the CNC machine. It's a very specific kind of machinery to make, say, parts for airplanes, for example, John says. But I wonder, like, are there parts that are replaceable so you can put in different sizes, different shapes of the item that makes the mold? Yeah, that's right. Great, John says, and how about you, Gregor? What could you tell us about your work experience?
Sure. So I've done a lot of things, as I mentioned earlier. But I always wondered, what was the need? What do people need? And, various people have asked me for things throughout the year. And I always ask people, what do you need? I don't ask, I tell everyone what my name is, obviously, when they come up to me and ask me for something, when they approach me. If they're deaf or hearing, it doesn't matter. I just ask them, what do you need? So, because I just try to make conversation as smooth and simple as possible when I'm having a conversation with the person, regardless if they're deaf or hearing. Obviously with me being deaf, and I do speak, as you can see, or hear. Of course I have my limitations when I'm speaking for myself, but nonetheless. But I'm always very polite to hearing people, and I kill them with kindness, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm doing the job right in whatever I'm helping them with. So if they need something, I just assist them through that so they can leave satisfied, and that's very important. So one job specifically that I was doing was selling watches. And so somebody would walk up to me and I asked them what they needed, they would point to it, I would point back to them, and when that interaction was completed, we would have that transaction, and I would sell them the product and then become more personal. I'd ask them what their name is, what they like to do, to make them feel comfortable and not just like be some sort of like robot to sell them something, but actually to be friendly and make them feel comfortable, because they are human, and that's important, and that's definitely something that I care about, is that human interaction.
Right, you totally have to bring yourself into every different position, because
And everyone has different needs every single day. You can't assume you know what people need. And it's like, oh, okay, here, I'll show you this sort of thing. No, we have to be respectful as well because, deaf people deserve respect as well. And so it's not like I'm gonna mock people because of their cultural background or if they're hearing or deaf. If I can't give you what you need, then of course I'll apologize and pass them along to someone else. But nonetheless, I'm gonna do my best to help them. And it's their choice to work with me or not.
So, I'm wondering, do you work mainly just in the hearing world, and when you speak, do you feel like that gives you an advantage? Do you feel like as a deaf person that when you can speak, is that an advantage? Does that ever hurt you?
Or you're
Has it
saying
ever been like
yes.
a detriment or it didn't work out?
Yes and no. Obviously, you can say the obvious like this, like, oh, I'm deaf. That's usually my first interaction with them. Hi, I'm deaf, and see how they react. And I'm used to various interactions, and regardless of how they react, I still put a friendly face on, and they'll ask me if I can read lips and that sort of thing, and I will say, yes, no, that sort of thing. But really, the point is that I just want to find out what they need to be able to best help them within the retail world, and sometimes they get off track a little bit, and I just bring them back to the point again and again. I'll ask them, what do you need, that sort of thing. I don't blame them for their interest about me being deaf, but when you live in an autist world, when they only focus on hearing, that's the price that we pay for the society that we live in, especially when we're working in customer service. But the point is, at the end of the day, if you enjoy your job, you can go on with patients and be friendly with them, but obviously some jobs I would not tolerate, and end up quitting or transferring.